Hello and welcome to Soaring to Success, the podcast where we dive into the stories of visionary entrepreneurs who are redefining the industries. I'm your host, Aman Walia. Today's guest is Kush Agarwal, a pilot who transformed his cockpit experience into a thriving drone service business. If you're eager to learn more about innovation in aviation or just need an entrepreneurial inspiration, episode is for you. Now let's get started. So Kush, tell me, you were once a professional pilot. Can you tell us about your background in aviation and how you initially fell in love with flying?
So, Aman, I've been a crazy aviation enthusiast for as long as I can remember. I used to fly model airplanes from my early teens, and I think I primarily picked up this passion from my father. My father used to be a glider pilot, and subsequently, used to build model airplanes. So I grew up with that concept, and he pushed me and my elder brother into pursuing our passion associated with aviation in whatever small way we could. So I grew up with my Sundays at National Defense Academy flying model airplanes, and any trip to the airport that I could do if we were picking up somebody or dropping somebody early on to just go see the airplanes. So that was something that became a core love for me at a very young age, and I was very keen to be associated in aviation by in some way or the other. And in all honesty, I never thought that I would pick up aviation as a career when I was younger, but it ended up being that, and I enjoyed every bit of it.
It's great to know that your journey is starting from the very early childhood, and you have picked up your passion and make it into a successful career.
Yeah.
And then you transitioned into drones. What sparked your interest in drones, and what made you to decide to pivot from a traditional aviation where you became successful, you were having a good career,
Yeah.
to this emerging technology?
Yeah. So I'll speak a little bit about my time in aviation and then how drones came about. At the age of 17, I went to flying school and I joined Jet Airways at the time when I was 19 years old. So joined very young, was very lucky to get that position and had a great time at Jet. So I started as a trainee co-pilot, moved up as a captain, subsequently did human factors training for a good 5, 6 years. And then I became the deputy chief pilot for the entire Boeing fleet there. But, it was very, very rewarding, very exciting role. But, as Jet started, it became apparent that there's a chance for the organization to unwind. A decision had to be taken, whether I was looking for another corporate role or want to do something else. And the way I tell it in a funny manner, I say my surname is Agarwal. So in 2018, I started looking for another opportunity. And alluding back to your question regarding drones, the Indian government actually uh, put out the first drone policy in August 2018. And it was very exciting for me because I used to be an aero modeler in my younger days. I was fascinated by the concept of drones. And the minute the policy came out, this became a opportunity. And in 2018 is the time that I met my co-founder Kiran. Kiran at the time was CEO at Goldman Sachs Global Center in Bangalore, senior industry professional, investment banking, 25 years, etc. We were very different. We have come from very different backgrounds, but we were put in a room with very interesting story. We were put in a room with 4 other people. So there was this potential investor that was known to me, known to Kiran separately. And when the drone policy came out, and I love how people like this think, he was looking for an opportunity in a new age industry. So he thought about who can I bring into the room that is likely to have some value in a drone-based enterprise. So he brought Kiran from a investment banking or business background. He brought me from an aviation background. He brought somebody from a tech background, somebody from a hardware background. And he put us in a room and he said, "Hey guys, what can we do with drones?" So we spent some time brainstorming and we met a couple of times. But over the course of 6 months, the others kind of dropped out one by one. And Kiran and I continued. We found that this is it's a very exciting field, technology with a lot of potential. And let's actually look at what we can do here. So that's how my foray into drones happened. And of course, a key factor was the fact that it is aviation related. So it's a core passion for me. Anything that flies is a core passion and an opportunity to leverage my corporate skills from the airline world. So that's how these various threads kind of just came together. I think Jet unwinding, the drone policy coming out, meeting the right partner in Kiran, the right opportunity, and just spoke to my wife, said, "Hey, this is the plunge I want to take." She said, "Yeah, let's go for it." Yeah. So that's how we got into drones at YellowSkye.
And everything started falling in place gradually, right? And I believe, yes, so visionaries, there are people who are visionaries, right? They can vision the new technologies. Maybe some people are not able to understand or can't vision to that level.
Yeah.
Drones, for that matter, is something which is now being used very heavily by government bodies also, especially during large ground movements. look what is happening in our home. So with drone, they're able to manage this whole crowd. They're able to monitor the situations. Or one or two, incident happens regarding fire, but they were very controlled and managed and quickly, resolved without any lethal or fatal incidents. That's how governments are now using technologies like drone. So how did you go from idea of having a drone service business in like 6 months, which you were talking about, to actually launching it? So there were initial steps. Right? You had a word with your wife, just you told me right now, today you want to take this plunge. But what was the actual steps from as an entrepreneurial journey? What were things you need to do to make sure that it is a successful launch?
So in a very cliched manner, Aman, Kiran and I got together a couple of times. Kiran was based in Bangalore. I was based in Mumbai at the time. And we met literally in a coffee shop. I remember in Coffee Day in central Bangalore a couple of times in Bombay. And literally, notebook or an iPad or a back of the tissue paper ideas. And we started looking at, okay, we want to participate in this industry. There is a GDP to be created, but where is the core value proposition going to lie? And what is the sort of solution that we want to provide? One of the things I learned early on in as a relatively new entrepreneur was to focus on a customer problem rather than focus on a technology, because technologies keep coming. Every 3 months or 6 months there's a new technology, but what we decided is, yes, the technology is great, it's very exciting. What we need to focus on is a customer problem. So that was our early days. Before we incorporated YellowSkye, we said, what is the customer problem we are going to solve with this technology? I actually went out and bought a drone, started flying it myself, started seeing what can we do. We identified real estate and infrastructure as a potential industry to serve. There was a problem to solve there. We saw that real estate projects are increasing in scale in India, and the ability to manage them is becoming complex. Lot of capital expenditure. I mean, that what kind of expense, what kind of investment is happening. So we actually went down to a level of meeting as many people as we could. I had a couple of friends and well-wishers that I could meet that are pretty senior real estate developers. And I sat in the room. I said, yeah, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? Is it going to work? So I got some no's, but I got some yeses. And we were able to actually build out a solution. And that's when we decided, let us incorporate YellowSkye. So in March of 2019, we incorporated YellowSkye. And we started serving our first customer as early as April, May. With a solution. To summarize, what we did was really try to find a customer value proposition. Can we provide a solution around this? And is this the right technology to provide that solution? And my only point here, I think one good learning, I think this is also something Kiran was very good at, is technology is great. Is it really solving somebody's problem? And I think that's one thing I always tell somebody who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur. Are you really solving some problem? It should not be in your mind, I love this tech, I'm so passionate about aviation. Yes, but is it going to solve a problem?
Absolutely. And now I'm just going to take a small bit of portion of the points which you made.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of taking feedbacks. Right.
Yes.
So feedbacks are something which helps you to evolve.
Absolutely.
Right? So you shared and you had discussion with your real estate friends, family members, and all, and some were yeses and some were no's.
Yeah.
So yeses are always gives you motivation, gives you energy to keep going.
Yeah.
From your context, how about no's? How you were able to handle those no's? What you have taken? What was the positive you have taken out of that?
That is actually a very superb question. That's the crux of it. So when we heard a no, our whole concept was why no? And what is it going to take to actually convert the no to a yes? I'll give you an example of a no. A senior developer in the Pune region, he turned around and told me, यार boss, this is a gimmick यार. हम लोग ने drones दे try किया, actually मैंने study किया, दिखने में अच्छा है, ये चलेगा नहीं. तो मैंने उनको पूछा क्यों नहीं चलेगा? What is the, he was very skeptical, and he told me that the kind of complexity we have on site, the way the industry is. I even heard this line from people that यार हम लोग 30 साल से कर रहे हैं, आप क्या सिखाओगे हमको ड्रोन से? But the point you made, that what do you learn out of it? I think we were very persistent in trying to understand why no, and can we actually craft a solution around the factor that the no's are overwhelmed by the yeses. So we are still not able to solve every problem, but we're able to solve enough of a problem that we are providing a value proposition. And the same friend slash well-wisher who was saying no to us 5 years ago today is a regular customer, and in fact has referred me around significantly. So I always tell him when I meet him, your early challenges to us have helped us evolve and develop a solution that is meaningful. So your point about feedback, I think if you're not open to feedback, you cannot create a meaningful solution.
Thank you for sharing this question. And now talking about challenges. So in India, I remember by 2021 or before 2021, drone policies were very restrictive. There were a lot of compliances relations.
Yeah.
So when you are launching your business, you have, formulated an idea which customers you're going to target, who are your customers, you identified that. You identified the problem for them as well, and you worked out the solution also around it.
Yeah.
But what were the challenges you faced around the regulations and the financing also? I mean, it does require, it's a deep tech, right?
Yes.
You need a lot of investment also. So how you address those areas?
So I'll talk about the regulations first. One of the biggest factors that added fuel to us starting YellowSkye was the regulation. The fact that the Indian government published the first round of regulation. If you look at regulation, any sort of blue ocean space in the country, and they talk about, let's say, blockchain and tomorrow, quantum computing, it's always challenging for any government to create regulation around that. I was privy to some early days of the draft preparation for the drone policy, and it was amazing to me that the team that was putting together the regulation needed buy-in from the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs. They needed state government approvals, central government approvals. They needed Bureau of Civil Aviation Secretary, Ministry of. There were so many stakeholders involved, and these poor guys sitting in a room, five of them, are trying to draft a policy that is going to meet everybody's requirements, but allow industry players like me to solve an industry problem. So early on, I realized there is a overwhelming challenge associated with regulation. But what was clear to us was a very positive intent, both at the civil aviation ministry level and at the government level. So our point of view on this was that it is an evolving regulation. It will evolve, and we took a bet on it that it is going to evolve. So that was one part of the regulation, and I'm happy to say that policymakers have come a very long way in a short span of 5 years. So they started with a tight policy, which I think was required for the time, and they have steadily unwound those parts which are, providing roadblocks, if I can just say that. Coming to the financing piece, so early days. Sorry, you were going to say something.
So I just want to add to that. They also follow the same concept. They took a feedback and they came back with a wise policy by 2021. So I remember, so they launched a digital sky platform. Everything become digitized, which has become very easy, for somebody to like go to a office, fill out those 25 odd forms and get the approvals and all. That has to really streamlined to only 5 forms and all digitized. That was brilliant. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please.
No. Very relevant. What you said is very relevant from the perspective also that you're right. They did take feedback, and what was amazing to us is that the policymakers in that time in 2019, 2020, they had actually brought in people in the civil aviation ministry and the secretariat that were from private industry. So these were people from private industry that had been at very senior positions in places like KPMG, etc. And they had taken a 3-year charge for in the civil aviation ministry in the secretariat. So it was very positive. You could see that these are people that are the right sort of the right bridge between government and industry. Being able to protect both sides and being able to move things forward. So very interesting to see, and I think the government has followed that model across other industries as well. So you're right. Things like digital sky, focus on digitalization, focus on not single place to put all your queries, not having to run around the country. I mean, phenomenal stuff.
And how about financing? I mean, any challenges and how was that like?
With regards to financing, see, early days we were bootstrapped. Kiran and I put in money ourselves.
Okay.
And one of the things that we were, both of us, while I've had a professional background, I primarily come from a business family. Kiran as well has roots in business. So we were very clear that we don't want to build a business early days which is burning money. So at a unit metric level, we were profitable from day one, and we extended ourselves in the first year only to that amount while we were still building product market fit and an MVP. We extended our costs only to that level where we were able to sustain, to the extent that the drone pilot at YellowSkye for the first year and a half was me. So if I have traveled all across the country and stood in the sun and flown the drone myself in the early days. One is from a cost perspective, but also what value was there is, and Kiran did it as well, by the way, is that we were really learned the nuts and bolts of the business. But when COVID hit, it was very tough, and that, I mean, so many businesses suffered, so many people suffered, but we were able to tide over because we had retained very low cost, a lot of variable cost structure in our operating model. So we had not we had not sold, we were not doing just free POCs. We were focused on value proposition and unit metric profitability from day one, and that is something we have retained today. So that helped us tide past COVID. We had very low fixed costs and were able to manage. In 21, 22, we actually picked up some institutional funding. By then, we had a MVP, we had traction, we had paying customers, we had subscription business. So there, then we got some investors on board. And the most exciting thing about that, if I can say, is when somebody else, a senior and intelligent person, believes in your idea with you more than the money that they put in. I think the fact that you have somebody in your corner becomes a very exciting path for a young entrepreneur in a blue ocean industry, right? Because there's no benchmarks, there's no industry data. So here you've got somebody that believes in your idea with you and is willing to back it. So that was a very exciting part for us.
I think this all keeping yourself in profit was because it was in your DNA, being Agarwal.
So I'm Agarwal and Kiran is Shah. I think we're the perfect combination.
Perfect combination. It's like two swords in one.
If I go haywire, he pulls me back. If he goes haywire, I pull him back. But yeah, we try to maintain that discipline.
So, so definitely you shared that you were in profit and you shared the COVID as well. But there was any moment wherein, the business was getting saturated or you were getting at any point of time that might not go up to the scale or would not work out to that level which you guys were assuming.
So I'll tell you honestly,
And what was your, how did you overcome that thoughts, what was your motivation? How did you overcome those thoughts?
As you can understand, you speak to so many people and you're part of really very large scope of things. There are very high highs and very low lows. And I think any entrepreneur will tell you that. So there have been those enough of those weeks and months where you've not got a new order or what you're doing is not playing out the way you had planned. And I learned this, I watch podcasts like this often. And I think one of the advice I took from entrepreneurs who I consider successful and with a strong value system is they talk about consistency and perseverance. So they say the most undervalued trait of entrepreneur is it's not innovation, it's not visionary vision. Those are important, but the foundation of the core is a superlative level of persistence and the ability to hold on. So that's something I keep reminding myself when things are not going good. It's a matter of time. We have to get past. We have to find a way out, but one cannot let go.
Very well said in terms of how the entrepreneurs should keep these basic I would say into their character while running their startups, and that is something that is because that is the reason I believe that most of the startups which who are failing,
Yes,
because they are starting up with single mindset of making money,
yes,
not solving the problem. I think that
Yes.
is the reason they are not able to sustain or they lack this ability of making any kind of a customer value.
Somebody told me there's this mentor I used to have last year. I believe in mentors a lot. And he's exited his business in 20 years. He exited with 2,000 crores in his pocket. So very, very successful, but very humble individual. One of the things that he would keep telling us, we were a small group of mentees that he would participate every month with. And conceptually, he said, entrepreneurship is like a philosophy. It is a way of life. And you are bearing risk, but you are creating gainful employment. You are building. He gave a statistic that India as a country, while it has been agrarian, today it is built on the shoulders of small entrepreneurs. Even your kirana wala is a small entrepreneur. वो भी उसका भी business है, वो भी investment करता है, वो भी risk लेता है, वो भी employment देता है. He's also paying. So we are a country of small entrepreneurs. Now some of us small entrepreneurs are becoming bigger and more ambitious, better organized. But in principle, entrepreneurship is a way of life. It cannot be for the purpose of making a quick exit, making quick money. It is we have to approach it differently. It's about creating an organization, an institution, generating value for all stakeholders. That's my belief. And I picked that up from, people I value or respect in this space.
Okay. So now looking back, can you share a milestone or a project that really put your drone business, on the map? And for you, it was like, yes, now we have achieved something.
So, good question, actually. Early days, I told you, we had skeptics, but we had some believers. So those initial work orders were very exciting. Getting a work order with the name of our company on it from a big organization was very exciting days. But I think for us, when things really, if I can use the term on this podcast, when shit became real, was in 23, second half of 23, we were selected by one of India's largest EPC companies to take on a very strategic project. So it was a 6,000, almost $1 billion project for for an airport, and we were assigned as the agency to do the early 3D digital twin creation for the purpose of the planning. And it dawned on us what the scale of the project was, what the repercussions would be if our data was wrong, what the value would be if our data was right. and the fact that they put trust in a new age company like us to do something so significant. So that was a, I think, monumental project for everyone at YellowSkye. For those 2 months, we lived that project. Everybody else, we continued, but that we were doing calls every night from 8 to 10, and that became our bread and butter for those 2 months. And it really also helped to clean up the team. What amazed me, Aman, was we think that people only work for money. I think that's what the average person thinks. But man, people came together to solve this. They took ownership. The young folks, our average age at YellowSkye is less than 28. Young people stepped up to the plate and took responsibility. I mean, it was overwhelming. It was amazing. So that really made us feel that we are onto something from a business point of view. And we're also onto something from the kind of team we are creating and the culture we are building. So for me, that was the kind of the merge that हाँ यहाँ कुछ है कुछ कर रहे हैं.
And did that influence your vision for the company's future?
Definitely. I think it opened up our mind. I mean, we had an idea that this is likely to work. But when we saw this come together, we said, yeah, man, this is big stuff. This has got potential. This is providing value. Otherwise, these guys are smart guys. They're not going to use us if they're not seeing some value. So definitely it opened up our mindset. It opened up the potential to markets. It opened up, a very clear direction on what we should focus on as a product. So definitely gave a lot of clarity.
Now, if I talk about drone technology, where do you see the biggest growth opportunities for drone and the service in the next few years?
So, if I would put it simply, I think drones provide a vantage point that is unique. Up to 10 years ago, this vantage point could only be provided by a helicopter, which was extremely, or an aircraft, which was extremely expensive. Today, high resolution aerial data, which a drone offers, is a game changer in many contexts. In fact, to the extent that I think we've not even been able to understand or explore what the potential values. You and I have discussed in the past, and it becomes difficult sometimes to, in a room, commit or understand core value proposition. But when somebody starts using it and starts getting access to this kind of data that they've never seen before, value propositions start emerging very rapidly. So coming back to opportunities, I think any industry or any kind of area of when I say industry, I mean it could be agriculture, it could be finance and banking, it could be insurance, it could be real estate or construction, like we're in. Any industry which owns large amount of risk where there's a geographical disadvantage or a geographical spread, I think those industries can benefit greatly by drones. And the real opportunity, I know AI is a very loosely used term. I heard this recently. AI is like dhania. आप हर एक चीज में थोड़ा sprinkle कर दो, so it sounds good. So I try to use AI spelling.
To say AI is like a namkeen. जब भी चाय बैठे हो तो AI की बातें चल रही हैं. नमकीन खा रहे हो साथ में नमकीन.
There you go. But I do think that by virtue of AI and the ability of computing becoming so much faster and so much more powerful in the current terms, the possibility of analyzing drone data is going to provide use cases in these industries, risk management use cases in the near term. It's all to me is risk management. You're providing a data set which is a vantage point we didn't have before, and the opportunity to analyze that data set for risk management.
So, are you excited about any advancements which are recently coming in drone technology, or any technology which can directly or indirectly, support the drone?
So again, I sparingly use this, but where AI, machine learning and AI is becoming very exciting is the opportunity for scalable use of drones. So drones are unmanned. What drone essentially is an unmanned aerial vehicle. What this has the potential to offer is an autonomous unmanned aerial vehicle, and that is on the data capture side. On the analysis side, again, we have the opportunity for scalability and automation. So I feel what that will do, why it's exciting is I think it will allow solutions which are niche today to become, drop in cost, become available to a wider range of businesses or industries. And that is really going to allow this technology to become mainstream, because whichever way you cut it, no, I mean, today drones are still niche. There are very few use cases where they are being used. And these two technologies, I think your AI ML and the ability for compute is going to allow for scalability and large scale use at a lower cost.
So you talked about compute as very interesting thing, which I'm not sure whether you have heard it or not. You have heard it in that fantastic news. That Microsoft has recently launched a quantum computing chip, which can go up to million qubits, right?
Unbelievable.
And I mean, the quantum computing was there earlier with IBM and Google, but it was having its own, I would not say issues, but its own areas of improvement which were there to be done. But Microsoft has come now big time. Now with that kind of a power, which they are claiming that the data which requires 50 years to process, maybe by a scientist or any research or any such kind of a work, can be done in 5 minutes or less than that.
Yeah.
But look at the possibility.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Right? And look at the possibility it will bring, like the one we mentioned about drone technology, right?
Yeah.
The speed, the movement, the mapping, the trajectory.
Yes.
Maybe one report we are able to, after capturing the data, you're able to provide the next half an hour or 45 minutes. Like a real time providing that information to the customer. Why the drone is
Absolutely. I mean, when we started YellowSkye, right, how fast things evolve. When we started YellowSkye, cloud was the big thing. So we tried to build our workflows in a manner that how do we get data to the cloud as soon as possible from the drone so that it can be processed in the cloud. And cloud computing was expensive, then it's still relatively expensive. Today, with the kind of, the processors you're talking about with Microsoft and even otherwise, we are again now thinking, how do we bring everything back to the edge? And for the same reason that you're mentioning, real-time processing, tactical decision making by autonomous decision making, immediate analysis and reporting. So it's going to again go through this shift based on what you're talking.
fair. So, I mean, there will be people, will get inspired with after listening to your journey. So, what is the key piece of advice would you give to someone hoping to start their own tech-focused business or any other entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. I think 2, 3 things that I have learned or I hold close. One is I think you have to do something that you're passionate about. And for some people, you may be passionate about business, but you may be even passionate about making money. But I think you have to really understand what your core passion is. It cannot be just about making money. There has to be some passion involved, whether it's about creating an organization, whether it's about a technology, whether it's about an industry. But I think if you're fueled by passion, then it becomes easier to maintain consistency and persistence that you were talking about earlier. So it's like a marriage, right? I think you have to fall in love with that person every day, again and again. There'll be days you're not in love, but if you're fundamentally in love, then you can get past those days. So I think that's one of the first things I would say. But the next thing, in contrast, is don't only get driven by passion. I think you have to have a certain restraint also, where you understand that the technology or the passion that you're fueled by actually has a core value proposition in the end user's life. So I think if these 2 things are able to come together with a basic value system around generating value and running business ethically, I think it's a fantastic thing to do.
Great, Kush. One last question. Any final thoughts you have on how to stay resilient or innovative in rapid evolving industry?
I think resilience, 2 things I'll say with regards to resilience and we talked about rapidly evolving industries. In today's world, I think one can't be too married to a solution or an idea. I think you have to put your heart and soul behind something, but the willingness and ability to pivot is very important. So you've been part of an organization which is a core industry, trading in commodities, to my understanding. I'm not trading, manufacturing and selling commodities, but even that industry is undergoing quantum shifts. And I have a family, a very close family member who used to create emulsifiers for oil that were used in furnaces in large industry. And that industry is dead today because they don't use oil anymore. They either use gas or they use electric. So now, a 30-year-old business that was extremely successful died in a short span of 2 years, and it required the ability to accept that, innovate or pivot. So I think that's something that entrepreneurs have to be very open to. That it is not a sign of failure if your initial idea doesn't work, but it is things change, they're out of your control, and don't take yourself too seriously. Be willing to pivot or change with the moving times, and that is, I think, a core resilience factor.
Great. Thank you so much, Kush, for sharing your journey from the cockpit to the forefront of drone innovation.
Thank you. You've been very patient. You've been letting me do all the talking.
I think that this is what it is about, and we want to hear more from people like you, who drive their passion to successful business. It's just not about, like you just mentioned now, not about driving your passion or working for your passion, making a successful entrepreneur, make successful organization or entrepreneurial venture. That this podcast is all about, so people can learn from it. Thank you so much, Kush. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Aman. Thank you.